you're going to hear a little. I hope that's okay. And I'm happy to do this for anybody who can't make it or who wants to, have me record a class or two. I'll put it up on YouTube, which is the best way for me to send the file to everybody.
That's great.
Nobody else sees it, just us, So anyway, that's really well said, Tally. So yeah, that's my thought is that, while we're having a conversation about artists in the big wide world. And Tammy's saying she loves having constraints for experiments, exactly, that we are also learning to broaden what we do in our own practice. So, it's two-pronged, it really is. Like, how do we experience contemporary art? What is its meaning for us? What happens when we're confronted with a show at the ICA, for example, in Boston, you guys who are not here, and we're like, I don't get it. How can we find a way in? And so some of that is learning about the history of how we got here. That's so important. And then the other thing is, how exciting is it to be sort of challenged by new ways of working, new technology, suddenly videos everywhere, suddenly, sculpture out of weird materials, and suddenly we have virtual reality art shows. I mean, what does that mean, and how does it affect what we do? To try to get a little bit of an understanding of that from talking about it in class. So that's in a nutshell what I'm hoping for all of us. Make sense? Yes, so broadening and instructing so that we feel really, feel more comfortable. And not that you'll have all the answers, but you'll know kind of where to look. And I don't know how, it's always really hard. I don't know how much each of you has looked at contemporary art. That's an unknown to me. Maybe we'll learn at that as we go along, but it's very broad, it's a very generalization. So going back to our syllabus, to sort of let the basic elements of art making, color, shape, form, all that's a composition, whatever, to let that be the structure. And while we're doing that, to look at how some contemporary artists, I have slews and slews of people I want to show you, but it's too much. I know it's just too much to look at everybody. So we're going to sort of, this is my way to bring it down to biteable sizes. We're not going to talk about everybody. We're going to talk about some people in context of some of these structures. Yeah. Okay, great. So as we are going to do in this class, we're going to take a look at what you all have done, and hopefully that feels comfortable to you. I want to also, with a caveat that this is not about judging. We do not critique in this class. That's not my intention at all. It's by looking at our work, you are actually helping each other. By saying, this is what I did in, respect to this class assignment. I kind of threw you a loop. I said, all right, we're going to do this crazy thing, paint to music in class. And then, hey, we're going to do this assignment in class, for homework, which you took this stuff that you probably thought, whatever, but then you made it into something. Yeah. And, what we just did in that homework is very much influenced by contemporary art. It is right out of the playbook of the surrealists, right out of the playbook of the abstract expressionists. Absolutely. And then in doing it, it actually is something that's very contemporary that a lot of artists still use to get where they're going in abstraction. So, hey, that all kind of came pretty quickly. And we're not done with that assignment yet, because today in class, we're going to start the second part of it, which I'll talk about as we go along. So I hope that makes people feel comfortable, and that, don't worry, about putting anything up. It's all fodder for discussion. Okay, so we're going to go look at our Padlet today. Hey, Susan,
yeah, because I don't know how to get my stuff up on Padlet.
Okay, yes, and I wonder if anybody else had some problems getting things up on Padlet. I'm not surprised. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but we'll talk about that today. Okay, so let me just bring this up here. All right, so this is our Padlet, and yeah, to upload anything, Do you see this little plus down here? I know it couldn't be smaller, but
Yeah, but
that's where it is.
the
You
pictures
basically,
are on the phone, and then the Padlet app is on the phone.
yeah, the
So
Padlet
I
app is
feel
on
like
the
I shouldn't have to
phone.
go to send the photographs to the computer to get them on the Padlet. Can't they just go? But when I
Yes,
open the Padlet, I have only the Hi Susan 380 from last class.
Susan, I do it all from my iPhone.
Okay, so how do you
yes.
get them onto the?
Okay, so if you have a Padlet app,
Yeah.
that contemporary art show, well, let's see. Oh, you know what? You might, well, the best thing
Do I
to
have to
do, the best
upgrade?
thing to do is to go to the link that I sent you on your phone in your Gmail. And you know what, I'll make a little video about it. I don't
Yeah,
want to take too much time from the class, but just suffice to say that if you go to the email that I sent you with a link in it, just click on that link. It should take you directly to the this Padlet page. And then you'll simply, there's going to be a plus sign in the corner. Just go, you know, click on the plus sign. It'll say upload your images. You go directly to your phone. But again, I will send that.
Any idea what date that was?
I'll resend it. I'll resend all that stuff. Yeah, I
Okay.
know it is a little tricky. How many
And
people?
wait, I just want to say that I work in technology, and I
Yes.
agree that that plus sign is so small, and it's exactly the same on the iPhone as it is like as we're seeing it right now.
It's pretty horrible. I know.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. But look for that exact thing, and I missed it the first couple of times.
Yeah.
Like they should seriously make it a button. I don't understand
I
what they.
know, and in some of them it is. It's a big pink button, but I don't know why for this one. But that's what it is, you know. And yes, and you know, if anybody has any problems with it, just email me your images and I'll upload them for you. You know, I don't want anybody to feel that this is just a big stumbling block. It should. Well, I'm sure that after the second or third class, we'll all, you know, feel pretty comfortable with it. But I will send you that video. So Susan did upload a lot of her experiments, which was fine. And then we had a little chat about, let's just let this particular Padlet be for our homework assignment, because we can end up with a lot of things from people in just this one little, this little, you know, row here. It's going to get very bogged down. So let's just go to the homework assignment. So
Seriously, you don't think the piglet picture is pretty damn fabulous?
they're fabulous. No, they're fabulous.
Piglet
But,
potato is my. Oh, that's not mine. I'll shut up now. I'm shutting
Okay,
up.
so great. So whose are these actually?
Jean.
Those are yours, Jean? Okay, great. So yeah, what we're gonna do is just, we're gonna look at these. We're gonna talk about what did you learn, and we're gonna fairly quickly go through them, because again, this is just part one of this this assignment that is going to be continued. So we started with mark making last week, which is such a huge, that phrase, we can't talk about contemporary art without understanding what that phrase means. Mark making, and it's very particular to contemporary art, and it all started with these abstract expressionists, right? Pollock being one, you know, and many others. What we're gonna talk a little bit about that again today too. But yeah, you know, mark making is about the mark itself, which, you know, suddenly is separated from the content. It's like its own thing. And artists started really exploring mark making, even with the Impressionists, right? The Pointillists, they were talking about the mark of the brush. The Impressionists were talking about a mark of color, a brushstroke itself of color. Whereas before this time, you know, a lot of artists weren't concerned. In fact, they tried to hide the brushstroke. You know, it was all like a veneer of like flatness, you know. So it's just a really interesting contemporary phrase. And so you guys all responded to music the other day, and I told you just use one color, just like let the music itself kind of suggest your stroke. And so that's what we were all dealing with. And so Jean, then I told you, okay, take it, turn it upside down so you can't see, and cut it up. Yes. So that was from the Surrealists, who believed that the element of chance was a big sort of a frees us from constraints, frees us from thinking too much about what we're doing. So you guys did that too. And Jean, you cut it up and then you took some of those pieces and then glued them down to sheets of paper and you made new compositions. So that's where we are with this stuff, right? And so we can all see, now this is blown up, the elements that Jean had here, glued them down and then just kind of made another composition. So Jean, what did you learn by doing this, if anything?
I think I enjoy the random and then the putting it back together.
Yeah,
It's sort of like some kind of a puzzle, some
yes.
kind of a problem, some kind of a project you have to solve the answer to or something. And I'm enjoying that process. And also I really think it helped me a lot studying Japanese calligraphy so that I feel good about my brush and my brush marks.
Comfortable about, yes, yes. That's very interesting, Jean. Great, yes. So here we are, just at the beginning of this thing. The other thing I'm hoping is that cutting these things up freed you from worrying too much about, making these works. Is this somebody, a new person, or is this Jean, you're continued?
Jean put on 10. I didn't know if I was.
That's fine. No, that's great. All right. Well, we'll just, yeah. So we'll just, quickly look at them. And again, this is just interesting. Okay, you have a lot of wonderful varieties, variations on a theme here. And so that's great. And that, is the way that I think, one thing that I can say from teaching for so long with adults is that we have this big hurdle to get over about worrying, what we're making is any good or not. And so that's one of the things that I try very hard to get you over in any of my classes. I think any of you have taken my classes before understand that it's so much about this, this feeling that it's part of the practice. It's part of making art is learning to quiet those judging voices that get in our way and tell us that whatever we're doing isn't good enough. So we're just going to get right away from that. And a lot of these things that I'm going to be showing you in class have a lot to do with getting over that hump of worrying so much about what we're making and just allowing it to flow free. So Tally, so we see you did a very good job of streamlining this whole process by giving us 4 at a time. I love it. That's great. And so you started to respond to these marks, gluing them down, having fun with it, or, kind of adding more marks to it to, just take it that next step. So we see you here, gluing things down and adding and responding, which is what this is all about, and again, adding marks. Some of the marks ended up being more shapes, but we can still see the marks in here. So that's all kind of part of the deal. So that's awesome. And so you did, I love it. So you have a lot to work with, and by doing many of something, you also give yourself the freedom to play and try out a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's so important. So here's Amy. Amy, are you here? Did you drop in? I don't think she's here.
I don't think she
and
came
I'm not
yet.
sure where she is. Did not hear that she was going to miss today, so I'm a little concerned. Okay. But we'll take a look at Amy's. Yes, so it's fun to see all the different ways that people responded with this. I think some people were worried that they had too much going on. No, you can do this exercise really in any way. It doesn't need to be just, pure line. It can be, it ended up being some areas that were darker. She's decided to, add more things here, but, they're free. They look like they're playful and, taking risks and trying new things, which is so much about what I believe is part of what's so important about art making, to try things out, to be playful, to be taking risks and trying new things. Stephanie, here we have some of your responses to this exercise. Did you want to say anything about what you were doing here?
Not much. I mean, I just grabbed a color that I never used, this kind of it's this deep purple, and I, added the orange. So I kind of stayed with the same color palette. So I tried to have a group of group of 3 from the same collage material.
Great.
That was my
Yeah, great. Hi, Amy, if you're here, it's great.
Sorry, I'm late.
That's okay. I'm glad you're here. I was a little worried that we had we had a little Zoom glitch or whatever, but
No, it's good.
Amy, we just did look at yours. We'll go back, and so if you want to say anything, we're just talking.
Oh, I'm
about
sorry.
Homework. No, it's all right, and we're talking a bit about the homework and about that this so much about what I do in my classes is to help people get over humps and get over concerns about and find new territory. So this might be something that you guys have never done before, or some things that you have been doing before, which is, again, this surprise element, taking what we did in class last time, cutting it up without seeing it, and then discovering, all right, here I have these things, what am I going to do? How am I going to respond? So Stephanie, it's fun to see everybody's so different. The way you're responding it seems to me that maybe you took a stencil. You used this as a stencil, perhaps, turned it over. Yeah, did you do that?
Yeah, and it's funny because I was using the I had the orange paint, and I was using the acrylic, and the acrylic was mixing with my my media, my media. So I'm like, oh, as I was gluing the back of it, I'm like, kind of like what it left behind.
Exactly. So that's
Cool.
exactly. And so as you're seeing everybody's response to these, I'm hoping that you all get ideas from each other. That, oh, I could do this. That's something I didn't think about. And, this is very, very interesting for me to see all the ways that everybody comes back and says, oh, well, I did that. And there's no wrong or right. It's simply the constraints were take what you did last week, cut it up, without looking at it, and then take a couple pieces and throw them down on another sheet of paper and respond to it, or add to it. And, what I showed you in the video was maybe the way I responded was to take the marks that I had made and join them. But, this is Stephanie's decided to do something a little bit different, which is totally fine. So I encourage you, when I give you a homework assignment, to go off on your own little trip. You don't have to take my trip. You can take your own trip. Oh God, I love this. So yeah, fun to see, an organic shape rather than a, crazy cut up shape. Stephanie, yeah. So we're just
a lot of my collage material ended up being pretty solid. So I understand the exercise was kind of connecting your lines, but my collage material was a little different. So I could see how it's different.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, no, and I love that. Sometimes it's going to be really different. This is a really interesting response. It's like, okay, sure. Why not? You are starting with something that you had before. That main point is throwing something on there and maybe taking you into a place that you didn't expect to go. All right, let's see what's next here. Tammy, all right. So we had you also, throwing things down on, randomly. What did you learn from doing this exercise? What was new for you?
I learned that I really don't like lines.
What?
I know, like I kept trying to just focus exactly, like I was trying to focus on like the mark, right? Like what is the mark that my brush is making? But then I fell into color and motion and curve and, something. So it was really hard for me to just stick to just doing a single line.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Yeah.
And, but if our topic is really mark making, you're mark making all over the place, whether it's linear or like fatter than, what is a line anyway?
Right.
I mean, you can really, go in there with that, but, it's like, again, what we were saying at the beginning was the understanding of separating the mark and thinking about the mark as content. As an expressive piece of content, if you will, how quickly the marks look like they were made, or how lightly, or how dark, or, and how they juxtapose with each other. I mean, all of that is, is the content that we're playing with here. So
Yeah.
again, this is a contemporary mark making as a contemporary phrase, as a phrase that we cannot talk about contemporary art without, because it applies to in so many ways, comes up in so many places, and it's still very much alive and kicking as a contemporary term, even though, you know, we were using it about artwork that happened much earlier.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
also very into layering and like leaving like the notebook things. Like I
Yeah.
love fringe, you know, and all these weird.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's beginning to take us to a different place, which is, you know, what we're going to be doing in class today is to take this whole thing to another, you know, to continue to work on it, which is, you know, something else that I really stress, you know, in all my classes, they all end up being, you know, similar in that, you know, it's about how do you do something and then take it the next step? Like, how do you go down further to make that work deeper, to push it further along the line, to explore it so that it's not just I'm doing this and then I'm doing that, and I'm doing that, you know, it's like a lot of people in art classes, you know, oh, this time I'm taking landscape drawing. Okay, well, this time I'm taking, you know, an abstract class. This time I'm taking, you know, and that's great because we do learn so many great skills from all this stuff. But then if you start to say, all right, I'm going to do an art practice, like we do a yoga practice, which means we just don't do it once, we're doing it kind of continually. You know, how do we make that deeper for ourselves? How do we explore deeper? Okay, so oh, Tammy, we have more. Oh my goodness. Okay, we have we have a lot. Okay, so we'll just and again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these. We're just like looking at what we all kind of did.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to include the originals just
Great.
for my documentation. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we are missing a bunch of people, and I'm wondering, did anybody send me something via
I
email?
just emailed you my pictures, Adrian.
Okay, great. Let's take a look at that then. Emailing. All right.
I emails.
Okay, great. So we'll see these here. So, Susan, here you are. Okay, there. All right. Okay, great. You know, some of these I'm not going to be able to open. It's that you probably sent me a small file.
Yeah,
which is
I did.
fine.
Do you want them larger?
It's okay. I mean, I think we can see here what you're
Okay.
doing. We can totally see the part that you glued on to make a new piece here, which is fine. I mean, I think in general, when you upload, a larger will allow us to enlarge this, and I can't do it here, but I can do it on, you know.
I can send them to you bigger if you want to look at Kathleen's first.
Okay, well, if you want to send me bigger, sure, go ahead.
All right,
Let's
I'll
see.
take a minute.
All right, Kathleen, where did you send me yours? Are they here? Yes, okay. Great. All right, yeah, these, oh, good. See, bigger resolution allows me to enlarge. That's great. Great, Kathleen. So what did you learn? Tell me, what was your experience with this?
I just felt very free and it was just fun making the mark. I'm a musician too, so I really responded to the music. And I didn't use the one from the music because it was so literal to the music.
Okay.
So I just made my own marks and then cut it up and then pasted it in.
Fabulous. I'm so glad that you did that. That's really great. So yeah, if I ever give an assignment and you want to do it again in a different way, go for it. I mean, all I'm doing here is giving you guys, you know, places to start, jumping off places. And these look very exciting, you know, and so much mark making, you know, you're discovering what the brush itself can do. And so many times we use brushes as tools to just, you know, copy something. We don't even think about what the brush itself can do. And it's such a wonderful tool if we really explore it, you know, all the different things that the marks can do, the marks can say, what we can make this tool do for us is so far more than what we use it. No, we're all, you know, I do it too. Sometimes I just use like, I want this paint down here. I'm just going to put it on, you know, and then I'm not really, you know, I'm not allowing that brush to take me to different places. Sometimes you want to do that, sometimes you don't, you know, but it's nice to know that it's possible to do all these different things. Okay,
I'd
great.
say these were subconscional emotive.
Subconscional emotive, yeah. They have a feeling of music. I mean, I don't know, Kathleen, do you ever look at abstract art and think about sounds you might hear when you're looking at it?
Ah, very much so.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. I find that when I look at Jackson Pollock's work, I hear music, or it helps me to understand it by thinking about music, you know. So I feel that there really are parallels for sure.
Very kinesthetic,
Kinesthetic, yep.
kind
Okay,
of
great.
autistic. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can put these on the Padlet for anybody who's having a hard time with that. All right, Susan, we're going to try you again with a larger. Great, thank you. So this should be, yeah, there we go. Yay. Okay, good. So nice. So you're responding with color already.
Well, basically, I think I ignored the pasted on pieces and just made my stuff. So
But
I'm
you
not
still
sure I really,
responded. But you still responded by using them as something, you know. And
a
again,
little bit, not much though.
starting with something is better than starting with nothing. You know, it's always this hump, like, where do I even begin? This is a great way to begin. And a lot of times that's just what we need, you know, and some constraints. Creativity flourishes with constraints, as Tammy was just reminding us before. You know, it's when you say, oh, I could do anything, and that's when we all start to freeze. You know, where do I start? So always to have something down on a sheet of paper, and to have more than just one is my recipe for getting started. So hopefully that helps you all. Great. You know, so Susan, so yeah, responding by overlapping, you know, even though you just had something on there, it already creates a composition. It already starts us thinking, you know, about.
That's true. Had there not been the brown stuff, it would have been less interesting.
Yeah, interesting to hear you say that. Yes, so this exercise can help us in a lot of ways. Great. So Amy, I just want to go back to our Padlet and see if you had anything you wanted to say about this way of working. Just like we're all, you know, responding to this exercise.
Yeah, so you know, I did 10. I just put on 2 here, but
That's fine.
in the beginning, you know, I mean, I really enjoyed doing it, but in the beginning, I think I was working a little too large. And I was responding, and then I was responding to my responses, and then I was responding to those responses.
Yes.
And and I started to realize my first responses were actually the best. And so, you know, like I revisited on another day with my scraps and made some new ones. And I think the ones where, well, this one is fairly highly responded to. Like, but I didn't think I went too far with that. I don't know. And then I tried to find the areas in the cut pieces that had some energy. And I tried to pull out that energy with, you know, line with a fan brush.
Yeah,
So
exactly. No, that's great. And, you know, there is no right or wrong here. And as I was saying earlier, and you might have missed this, but this is going to be, we're going to work into these now, I mean, in this class, to continue this project. And so,
Okay.
whatever you did, it's probably going to be destroyed and turned into something else. So it's all fodder, you know. Great, Amy, thank you. So did we not, Susanna, you didn't get a chance to do this. I just want to make sure we looked at everybody's work. Did we do that? Yes. Okay.
I have a quick question for
Yes,
Amy. What size were your pieces, Amy? You said one was too big or something.
Let me see.
Well, I mean, approximately.
Like 8 by 10.
Okay, that's what I used too.
Yeah.
Anything larger would have taken too long was kind of my theory.
Yeah.
And 8 by 10 is fine. So yes, and so let me reiterate now that Amy's here, just, you know, and this is going to be our touchstone throughout this whole class. It is both hoping to demystify contemporary art by looking at artists who have made an impact somehow, on what the conversation is and the larger art world with a capital A, and also expanding our own individual practices by dissecting, chatting about, learning about where this all came from. Because again, I keep finding this so remarkable. We're all using this vocabulary of the abstract expressionists. Everything we did, all that we did, and you did in your homework, the things that we're going to be doing today. If we were to do this assignment 100 years ago, well, you would have thought it was crazy. I mean, you would 1921, right? You guys, we would have been like, woo. Think about it. What was the everyday average person looking at? I mean, I'm talking about the avant-garde. The avant-garde was the avant-garde. First of all, we women wouldn't have been part of the avant-garde, right? So I can't, stress enough how we, in 100 years, how art making has so shifted. Who does it? Who's got a valid thing to say in it? Has so changed completely that this is like a huge time shift, right? Just so we need to acknowledge how far we've come and how our conversation is so different than it might have been, just 100 years ago was really a big deal. So in light of that, I want to do two things. I want to have us all look at another great video that I found. And I find that one of the great things about doing Zoom is to be able to show you guys videos and have us be able to talk about that, because it brings such an added dimension. Like, as I said, I am not art historian. I don't pretend to be, but I am very aware of things. And sometimes videos just do it, encapsulate in a way that I can't do. So let's first look at this video that I found online. That is sort of starts with Jackson Pollock, because he is such a huge figure and ends up being always a big name too that we can't help but referring. So I want to look at this one that's how art arrived at Jackson Pollock for our consideration here. And it's only a 6-minute video. I just want to optimize it for us, and to also make it on a bigger screen. So here we go.
When should you start the story of this painting? Here in 1910, or here in 1844? Maybe here in Cézanne's studio at the close of the 19th century? Or maybe the only place you can really find the genesis of this canvas is in Jackson Pollock's mind, the day he began to drip. I'm drawn to ask these questions because this painting, 1 number 13, 1950, is the only abstract work of art that has ever floored me in person. As soon as my eyes caught it, it made me feel something. I don't know that I could describe the feeling, but I didn't have to go searching for it either. A problem I often have with non-figurative paintings, where I'm standing in front of a canvas trying to figure out the reaction I'm having to it, feeling guilty because nothing's coming. I don't think the power of this Pollock depends on its place in the history of art. Its style, its use of color, its hyperactivity are intrinsic qualities. But I do think the history of art has a lot to say through Pollock's strip paintings, which he'd been making by this point for about 4 years. In many ways, they're the culmination of something that has a foggy beginning about a century or two before, with the gradual end of church and noble patronage of the arts, and the dawn of painters painting what was important to them. There's no fixed point where you could mark the beginning of modern art. Some find it in this painting by Manet from 1863, with its flattened image and scandalous subject that flouted the values of the Paris Salon. And I think it's as good a moment as any. That year, fully 2/3 of submissions to the Salon were rejected, and after a public outcry, Emperor Napoleon III authorized a second Salon to feature them, called, appropriately, the Exhibition of Rejects. It was a massively popular event, and though these paintings were criticized as much as they were praised, it marked a moment of legitimacy for art that stood outside the Academy's hierarchy of quality. Once the cat was out of the bag, things started moving very quickly. Less than 10 years later, Claude Monet and his compatriots launched into Impressionism, concerning themselves not with the objects they see in the world, but how the light plays off them. Impressionism, in turn, starts a chain reaction of, well, reaction. The post-impressionists begin to dispense with the effects of light and the reality of color and paint according to subjective experience and emotional vision. Then the fauvists take the arbitrariness of color to kaleidoscopic extremes in the first decade of the 20th century. I mean, just look at the transformation that's happened to painting in just 40 short years. Art has unraveled. Its centuries-long aim of reproducing the physical world in perspective, color, and form is rapidly being abandoned. Vasily Kandinsky, influenced by the Impressionists, by the Fauvists, by music, and by the geometric spirituality of Theosophy, starts pulling away from representation entirely. In a groundbreaking book, he writes, "The more abstract is form, the more clear and direct its appeal." And in 1910, he paints this, in which no objects from our world can be recognized at all. It's the first fully abstract painting, except it turns out that Hilma af Klint was actually painting abstracts at least 3 years prior to this, but no one knew that until many years later. Meanwhile, Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque were shaking up painting in their own way by formalizing Cézanne's experiments with multiple perspectives into cubism. The cubists used geometry to show reality from many angles simultaneously. Kandinsky takes inspiration from this, but is more interested in abstracting geometry from its representational source. The sparks that fly from these investigations create several other movements: futurism in Italy, to style in the Netherlands, suprematism, then constructivism in Russia, Dada in Switzerland, and eventually surrealism in the 1920s and 1930s. A key aspect of the Surrealist Manifesto is the focus on automatic creation, writing or speaking without forethought as a way to access the unconscious mind. Painters like André Masson applied this to the visual arts, letting ink run free across paper, creating fluid, dreamlike drawings prefiguring the work of Jackson Pollock. As World War II ravaged Europe, several of the Surrealists and other European artists escaped to New York City and began to mix with a new school of American painters. The Americans synthesized and reacted to all the various European styles. The abstract expressionists, as they were called, made work that was deeply personal, formally inventive, and confrontational. Exiled surrealist Wolfgang Palin put it best: paintings no longer represent. Today it has become the role of the painting to look at the spectator and ask him, what do you represent? Pollock's strip paintings push abstraction to its furthest limit. Even in Kandinsky, lines still bound recognizable shapes. In Pollock, there are no shapes, no suggestions to grab onto. The line itself, dancing across the canvas, is set free, containing nothing, separating nothing. There is no inside, no outside, nowhere for your eyes to rest. All that remains is energy, wild, emotional energy that peers into you, not the other way around. I think that's why I reacted so strongly to this painting in person. I could feel it looking at me. You know, like I said before, these drip paintings have intrinsic value, but I also think they speak to something deep in human nature, that we are obsessive. In the same way that we won't stop until we're flying among the stars, it took less than 100 years for this to become this. A fast-changing world contributed hugely, of course. But beyond that, I do believe there's a drive in us to take things as far as they can go. And the century of modern art is an exhilarating example of that. It's just inspiring how irrepressible human creativity can be. Hey everybody, thank you so much.
Wow. So just, can we just talk a little bit about this? What did you guys think about this?
Is he friends with that other woman who talks really fast?
I know. I know. I think I speed that up since it's very fast. It is very fast. And there was a lot.
No. I mean, I'm not saying that. Are they like work partners or something?
I don't know, but it is funny.
No, I love that. I totally love that.
I like that too. I mean, just to have such a quick synopsis overview, it's fun. It's just like, it's so much information in a quick amount of time. I love it.
It is, but yeah, I mean, it just drives home, that we are all, we've had to like really, all of the, the visual art audience has really had to, sort of absorb and sort of figure out, what's happened. I mean, what strikes me as interesting is this concept that there's a group of artists that are all like, okay, that's what they're doing. Well, we're going to do it differently, And I mean, it's true that, so, artists work alone, but they talk with each other. And, Cafe Society brought a lot of men together to discuss, what they were doing in their studios. And, we don't have anything quite like, we have different things now, and different groups of people. All right, let's see, Tally, you had your hand, and then Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, it was interesting. They started with Picasso because that was completely in my mind. I was an art history major, and I just remember getting to that point and thinking, partly, this is hogwash. How do I know good from bad? And I still feel that way, particularly about Picasso. I feel he hoodwinked us, and but I don't really know why. I've never, heard somebody talk about Picasso beyond kind of what this guy did today, that he experimented and responded to what he was doing and so on. So, I mean, this class has been meaningful to me for that reason, because I see also how to be spontaneous.
I
I
agree.
still struggle.
I agree. Like history in general in high school gets up to not your time, but a time before. Art history gets to Picasso and then ends, and we're never at our time.
That's right.
With Black artists, with gay artists, with queer artists, with everything out there, with splatter, beyond splatter. Jackson Pollock is way in the history.
Yes.
He was out there then,
Yeah.
but now there's something different.
Yes, exactly. And that's where we're at. Amy, you were going to say something.
No, I thought it was interesting. He said that the Pollock that we were looking at, it forces us, no, we're not looking at the painting's looking at us. And it's got at that, what I was trying to say before about the art last week, that it demands more of us.
Yes.
There's something, I'm not quite wording it quite right, but there's something in there, the back and forth, in which direction, I don't know, where your viewpoint is or something.
No, absolutely. And who art is talking to too, right? I mean, for so long, it was the patrons of the arts were the church, and the royalty. And so it really changed who the audience was. And so that's also so different now. And the audience is everybody, and art, the pricing of art can be so varied, it really changes the game. Yeah, it's just so interesting. Tammy, go ahead.
I think if anybody has hoodwinked us, it's been the tying of art to, its economic value.
Yes.
I feel like that is a whole other thing. And the only thing that I don't like about videos like this is that they specifically pick Picasso and Jackson Pollock, like people who are already super famous, who but they're kind of only famous in retrospect because of how much their paintings go for now. I always love the more obscure people. I love the shout out to Hilma af Klint. There was a big,
I know, that was great that he mentioned that. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And so I love, because you're right, like artists hang out together. And I feel like Picasso was influenced by so many other people in his circle that when I actually got to go to an exhibition, I was like, wait a minute, I like Braque much better. I like this much better. I like this much better. And like, okay, yeah, Picasso's fine, but he's like of the, if I were in a time machine and I could go back there, that's not who I would pick as the most riveting or most exciting artist for me.
No, it's so true, Tammy. And I'm going to say one more thing. And that is, well, we may talk more about this as well. We'll probably touch on this a lot, but art and commerce, how those two things came together, and the fact that when you don't have patronage anymore from the church or royalty, how does an artist survive? And so you get Picasso. I mean, you got to say one thing about him: he's a fabulous entrepreneur of his own work. And, right? He didn't lose a moment. I mean, the guy was always networking, and so it gets clouded in the public's mind about, why someone's art is respected, and also how much the work costs now. It's often not, I mean, I'm going to say often, it is sometimes, not, well, it's very it's controversial and it's questionable. So I just want to put that out there. I mean, and I just want to say a really quick thing about Van Gogh, who I didn't know this story, but he died young and he died penniless, and he died pretty much in obscurity, but his brother was an art dealer and died shortly after Van Gogh died. And his wife, Theo's wife, the gallery owner's wife, was left to raise a child by herself, and looked to see that she had this cache of paintings by Van Gogh. And she really was the one who made him famous by, taking his work around to galleries at that time. And she needed to support herself. I mean, it's just interesting how, and yes, he was a super committed, painter who his work cannot be ignored for the commitment to it. But, we have to look at how much branding and popularity and money has to do with the artists whose work is very famous now, So that's really a topic that's really hard to talk about because it's so complex, but we're going to try to pull it apart. And also, we're also going to try to sort of slide above it and just have that all as we're all understanding that.
Can you invite Larry Gagosian to be a guest lecturer?
Wouldn't that be interesting? Yes, Gagosian Gallery is, one of the very top, very, huge money-making galleries and sort of the taste trendsetters and the tastemakers, because of the fact that he can sell his work, that work of these artists that he represents. But now, before we get into our art making part, I did want to spend, and this is typical of our classes, we'll spend about an hour chatting and looking, and then we'll do about an hour's worth of work in class. Like last week was different because we had so much time to kind of introduce everybody to everything and to each other, blah, 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 a lot more talking than I would prefer. But I do want to show you a slideshow that I made for this class. That's, again, so our topic is mark making. Our topic is going to be, for these 2 weeks, mark making. We're going to be exploring what that means, and then move on to color, I think, for next week. But I did put together a slideshow of artists that I wanted to, present to you as people that, we're going to look at. Just want to do this slideshow here. Yeah, there we go. From the beginning. Okay. So, again, mark making. We saw pointillists do mark making. We saw impressionists do marking. We even saw, artists before that time who didn't even realize that they were doing artwork that we would consider using mark making as a big part of their work. But when we began to separate it out, when people like Jackson Pollock and Kandinsky and Klimt and all these people started to Alf Klimt, that is, separated out, that the energy of the mark itself, the color, the separating art of the mark itself began to be the content. We look at artists like Joan Mitchell, and I always like to show a lot of women artists who you may or may not know, but she was, an artist who got acclaim for these are very, very large paintings she was doing. This is a triptych. I don't know the size of it, but I'm going to say the scale, scale of a lot of her work was very, very large. We're talking over 10 feet tall, and it's certainly over 10 feet wide. But
Are you showing anything right now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. Oh, thank you. Excuse me. Hold on. Oh, I love it. Thank you all for finding this. Yeah.
No worries.
Okay. try this again. Thank you. God, get this out of here. Hold on. Escape. All right. There we go. Joan Mitchell. Thank you. Joan Mitchell. Yes. Some of you may have I'm familiar with her work. So you know, we don't have to like or not like, and that's not even the question here. It's simply to dissect, to explore artists who, you know, whose topic is mark making, or who a lot of their work, you know, it really uses the beauty of the mark, the beauty of plain color, or, you know, even the word beauty, I shouldn't even use that. The effect of a brush mark as content in their work, as helping to express what they want to express. When you guys look at something like this, what words come to mind that are not necessarily evaluative, not judgmental, but just simply what you know, what feelings are you getting when you look at something like this?
Well, it looks to me very much like some sort of plants or trees. If I knew my plants better, I could tell you.
Ah, so you see like vegetation or growth. Yeah.
Yeah.
What other words?
Joyous.
Joyous. Yeah. Yeah.
Joy
Yeah.
was one that kind of came to me too.
And why do you guys say that? What about those marks make you feel joyous?
The color and the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like spring.
Interesting. Yeah. So, if you think what do you think this work would be like if it were in shades of gray and black? Do you think it would still be joyous?
No, it would feel angry.
Oh, but that's
Angry.
key because yeah, but joy and anger both have an energetic quality, right? So I think what you're picking up by that word joyous, or you know, is color, but also, you know, joy and anger. If it was black or gray,
Right.
you know, that's a very interesting key. But the marks are energetic, so we get that as a sense of it. Yeah. Anybody
How large
else?
is it?
Sorry.
How large is it?
How large? That, you know, I don't know this particular one, but I was just saying her work tends to be very large, and that when you're standing in front of it, you're engulfed by it. But I'm going to guesstimate that this is probably about 10 feet tall.
Mhm.
You know,
It does have a ton of energy, no matter what colors it might be in.
Energy, exactly. And so that's the key to these brush strokes, you know, and that's always what we're going to be, you know, kind of noticing about it. Here's another contemporary artist, Susan Rothenberg, who just recently died, but she was a prolific artist. And, you know, looking at her work, which, you know, I'm just showing little bits and pieces of everybody's today, but just to, you know, as cataloging artists who did use mark making as part of their work, you know, she's not trying to flatten out things by using flat areas of color. She's very much about the mark of the brush giving, you know, you can't look at this work without feeling a sense of movement in it, right?
Yeah, but I also am very conscious that you're looking down at all this stuff, so it makes me feel like I'm flying or something.
Flying, yes, yes. So her perspective certainly is part of the you know, the expressivity of the work. But yeah, exactly. Anybody else? Thoughts?
And
You know,
she's not just concerned about making her perspective correct, which makes it kind of fun and quirky.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like, yeah, that there is a right. She's not worried about trying to give you a realistic view of what she's depicting, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know that we're taking.
Yeah, it's like not a photo, but it's very emotional.
Emotional, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but why do you say that, Kathleen? Can you help us? You find it emotional. What is it about it that makes you feel that way?
Well, there's the suggestion of a bed and chairs that are moved and animated, and a dark grayness in the corner, and the upper right is black and ominous, and these lights that
Yeah.
are paring down on the scene, like, You don't really know what, but you're just feeling it. You don't have to like, oh, that's a bed, that's a chair, that's a light. You know,
Right.
it's like just respond with your gut.
Yeah, exactly, Kathleen. Good, thank you. This pin is a little pixelated, I'm sorry, but Susan, this is one of Susan Rothenberg's drawings. This is charcoal. And so you can see even, in her drawing, the mark making is very important to her. That it's not just one line, that we almost see how this drawing came to be. We can see the history of it. She just doesn't, she's not afraid of leaving a line that she doesn't think is correct. She's trying to find the lines by allowing the lines to be there and then finding and describing. She often used horses as subject matter, as compositional elements, breaking them down. So in a lot of her work, you'll see, not the one we saw before, of course, but this one I think is from the horse series. But meanwhile, Cecily Brown is a very contemporary, in other words, she's still alive, she's young, and she's working right now. And, again, you can see, the history of art, in the 20th century comes in through her using mark making as a way to create what often are sort of, she uses the figure a lot. You have to look harder to see it, but it's there. Right, so Julie Moretu is somebody that Tally has known, that I've used in a couple of these classes before, because she is also somebody who's using mark making as a subject. And these are often, again, big pieces that she's, that are often engulfing when you stand in front of them. And layered brush strokes over and over again that we see. Does anybody want to take a whack at what this is? Kind of inspiring in you to say a word or two, a phrase that this brings to mind.
I'm sorry to be the one speaking up so much. I'll try to quiet myself. But I look at this and I think, if I were an art critic, how the heck would I criticize this? Like, this gives me that same hoodwink feeling. Whereas the ones you just showed before.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. And I know that, as Jean said, chaos before that. So there is a feeling of chaos in here. And someone said they loved it. What did you take away from it? Is that?
I love it. It feels like the Washington Monument, like the sky over the, I know I'm being very figurative about that, but
that's okay. Yeah. But we all get different things. But I think the point here is, although there is chaos, and I know, and whether you like it or not is independent of just noticing how artists these days are using marks.
I like how it feels like there's a difference between the background that she's using, which feels like very stark, and like there are a lot of like there's a triangle, and there are a lot of straight lines. I think the background or something, it's almost like she's using multiple media, right? Like maybe there's charcoal or maybe it's just black paint or whatever. And I love the layering because the color looks very restrained, and there are just like a few hints of it here and there.
Yeah, and she is layering. I think that's something that she does want to try and get into her work, is a feeling of depth. I don't know if you're looking at it this way is creating that in you, but there is a sense of depth by the way she's putting. But we're actually kind of getting away from the mark making quality of her work, which I just want to keep going back to, because that's what we're really trying to push here and to explore. Another one,
I've actually seen her work in person, and it's really fascinating. There's so much depth that, this whether you like it or not is, I love a lot of her work, and some of it I'm not as drawn to, but just there's so many different levels of it. Like they're massive. First of all, they're probably
massive.
Massive. So they read from across the room, but then when you go up close, you can see this level of hand-drawn detail. And I don't know who said, seeing this layering, there is a lot of layering. So it's like this hand-drawn, huge amount of detail. Some of it's of cities, some of it's of, might look like, storms or whatnot. But it's pretty impressive.
It's
a lot
of layers.
It reads at many.
I was
It reads
gonna
many
say,
different layers, yeah.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think her work might look less confusing if you see it in person because you can see all those layers more. And I love the layering. And it, it probably makes more sense visually when you
Yes,
can get right up
exactly.
close to it and stand back and see it as a whole too.
Exactly. And I so as we're talking about this and seeing these people who are using mark making, there's this thread that goes through art history. And it's a little bit like evolution. Do you see the parallels, how things, artists seem to build on what came before and take it the next step, I can't see you, but I can't tell if you're all nodding, but it's that kind of a thing.
Yes.
I think that I'm trying to say here too. An artist that you may or may not know. His name is Donald Martini. Okay, these things are pure brushstroke. They are huge. So this is probably like 8 feet high. It's just the mark. Just the mark. So he's doing a really interesting thing by, literally, these are made of poured, some kind of plastic or some kind of, substance that will hold a mark. So he takes big brushes through this material that will hold this shape, and then he paints them. So it's basically they're sculptural. So he's again, this is like taking it as far as we can go, right? So the mark itself is the, kind of thing that he's playing with in his work. And I'm wondering if you have, does anybody have a feeling that they're getting from this?
Quick question. I'm sorry to go back.
Yeah.
What material do you think he mixes in with it to keep?
I don't know. I am going to say he's using something like a plastic or an acrylic, that is, he's able to, that's going to hold shape. In other words, you can't really do these out of something that's going to be liquidy. They got to hold their shape. I'm going to guess he's got videos online that shows how he does these things. I mean, it's pretty incredible that he figured it out. But yeah.
It seems like when I look at this, I think of the joy that I had as a child, just pulling out my paints for the very first time. And, he's sort of elevated that really sort of like a primal joy in art making or something like that.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
I was going to say it's kind of fetishizing this.
Right?
It's like he loves
Fetishizing
it
the
so
mark.
much.
Yeah.
That he's like, this is all I want you to look at. Just like
Yes.
look at these beautiful brush strokes and
Yes,
let's just blow it up.
exactly. And you can see how big this thing is. Here's the floor.
But in reality, it's not really beautiful brushstrokes because it's this huge thing. It's not like you or I just took a paintbrush and switched it around on a piece of paper, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, yeah, you
A
can.
person in one of these would probably be pretty powerful.
It's powerful. It is.
Yeah. Just for the scale factor.
What about the line at the bottom? I mean, is that important?
Well, the fact that, I put this is in the picture because it shows you the scale of how big this thing is to the floor. Like this is the floor, this is the wall. So you're seeing, and this is probably like, I'm going to say maybe 15 feet across, maybe even bigger. So it's huge. Like we can't, it's it's a really, really big piece. So you are, you are dwarfed by the scale of this brush. And so what is his, again, how would you place him? If you didn't know the phrase mark making, you would have a hard time kind of looking at this work and not simply dismissing it, right?
I even have a hard time not dismissing it, even though I do know the phrase.
Yeah, you exactly. No, so we are going to get into personal likes and dislikes, and yeah, absolutely. It's not inevitable, but again, to think about that contemporary art does rely on the viewer having some context, and this is the part that's missing. We need to keep educating our populace and the audience to be able to appreciate what is out there in the world, and I I think that behooves artists and art educators and museums and gallerists and all kinds of people to help us all understand what we're looking at and why, why is it worth looking at? Why are we being shown this? So complex stuff. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there as an interesting thing to understand. And anyway, I want to now go to our hands-on topic today. So it's a lot of chatter, but just to say that, as I said before, this particular exercise that I'm having you do owes a lot to the surrealists, to the Dadaists, to abstract expressionists, to mark making, to a lot of things. And this thing that I had you do, which is to cut up your work without looking at it, is very much a part of what the surrealists brought to us. The artists who said, you know what, to be able to access the unconscious, to be able to access a kind of freedom, we need to allow ourselves the ability to let chance take its course in our work. We have to give up some control, right? And I was actually taught some of this stuff in art school when I was in art school in the 70s. Okay, I was taught by people who were taught by the surrealists and the Dadaists. So this was part of what my training was. And it's still it's valid because it is part of how we got here. And so by allowing some of this to be part of our art making experience, I think we can get the benefit of what it does, which is that it frees us from the constraints of judgment. Is it good? Is it bad? We can't be in control of it if we can't see it. So if we give a little bit of that control up to, I'm just going to cut this randomly, and then say, okay, now I have to use these in making a new composition, we can free ourselves up from stuff that we've done before, from feeling the sense of judgment, and also to allow something new to happen in our art practice. So taking what you've done, and we're going to do this in class today, taking what you've done for homework, I'm going to ask you all to take 2 or 3 of them. It doesn't matter which ones, it completely doesn't matter. And to cut those up without looking at them, turn them down, face down. So I don't want you to be thinking about composition or pieces you like or you don't like. Cut it up into some nice large shapes like you were doing before, the exact same thing. And then to take 5 new sheets of paper and to make 5 new compositions based on fragments of the things that you've just cut up. So take those fragments, re-glue them onto new sheets of paper. You're going to have a lot of white space yet again. And now for another time, I want you to respond to those shapes and use color, use line, use brush strokes, and to continue to work on these pieces and to make them new again.
Can you repeat? It's cut up 3 and make how many, or what was the number
Cut 3
again?
and make 5. Yeah, and you don't have to use all of the pieces. You can use some of the pieces. But again, how are you going to respond to these smaller images that were all started with the brush stroke, all started with that response you initially had to music. So it came from something. It came from your own hand. It came from your own response. So I'm asking you to keep the response, but to go deeper with it, to go further and to expand on that in any way that you'd like. It's all good. It's not, none of it is other, it's good to respond in any way. They will not be judged good or bad. They are research. They are pushing yourself into another iteration, carrying this this first thing that we did. So you did the exercise to the music. The second iteration was tearing those up, cutting them up, re-gluing them and responding to them. Your third iteration is now to cut them up again, re-glue, and then respond.
Question.
Yes.
Do we work from just one or two of the ones we did for homework? Or are we
I was
supposed
saying
to be
to choose three, Tally.
Okay.
Yeah.
make 5 new ones?
And 5 new, yeah. And I'll write this
Okay.
up and I'll put it on our screen here so that you can look at it while you're working. But yeah, it's really just carrying it further. And we will work to the end of the class today and then stop before class is over to take a look at how you've changed. Because I don't want these to be long time things. I don't want you to slave away at this and make it more than it needs to be. Jean, question.
Keep them to the small size, cut these up and the small size of.
I mean, I think that's fine, you know, because it makes it a little bit less onerous to do it. But if you feel like you want to work larger, it's really also okay. The
Okay.
point is to have this iteration happen where, you know, you're taking it, then you took it again, and now you're taking it a third time and working with your scale.
Okay.
Okay, so I will be here to chat with you individually if you'd like to. But again, we're going to work fairly quickly. It's 11:18 right now. We're going to stop about 10 minutes before class. Doesn't give you a lot of time, but that's good. That's actually really good. Kind of don't think so much. Just do it. See how you respond. Just put them out there. So as far as you can get. Okay, go for it. Susan.
Teacher?
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn them over backside up and
Cut 'em up.
slit them with a knife. I'm not going to like straight
right.
line.
Exactly. Any way you want to. Cut with scissors, cut with an X-Acto blade. Anything goes. The idea is that we're taking what you did and we're redoing it, and then you're gluing on another sheet of paper and responding. So I'm going to write this up and I'm going to put it on our screen so that you can just feel pretty comfortable that you're understanding what we're going to do here. And again, when you cut or X-Acto blade, or tear, whatever you want to do with them, bigger shapes are better than smaller ones. You know, you want to like err on the side of making them too big because, you know, that'll just take forever. So, you know, nice big shapes. And if you feel if you want to, I'm going to mute everybody just for this period of working. If you have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourselves and talk to me. I'm happy to chat with you about anything at all. And then, you know, I'll stop our working time a little bit before we say goodbye today to work. And if you want to play music, whatever feels comfortable to you in your own spaces to do that, go for it. If you want to turn off your camera to feel more private, that's also fine. I totally understand that you may want to do that. That's totally fine. Okay, great. And I'll put this on the screen as soon as I write it, the directions.
Adrienne,
Yes,
we're just working on one piece at this point. We're not doing 5 all at the same. 5 is for the homework, right?
5 is at the same time. Because you're gonna
5
have
at the same time.
yeah, because
Okay.
you're gonna have a lot of pieces. Yeah, you have lots of pieces. And this idea of working on more than one thing at the same time is a very good strategy for getting outside of our heads. So, all right, I'm gonna put this on the screen so you guys can see it. Okay. All right, everybody see that? In case you
Yep.
the steps, here they are. Yes, you do want to work rapidly. Yes, you do. You don't want to think too much because, thinking sometimes while we're doing, we edit too much while we're doing it. It really stops us in our tracks and really stops that creative response.
Hi everyone, I voice a character in a video. Hi everyone, I voice a character in a video.
How are we doing? Anybody need help? Anybody need consultation? Good. All right. I have
Great, Adrienne.
I am here. We have-
Adrienne, I'm staying with 8x10 paper,
That's fine.
substrate.
That's totally
Okay.
fine. Yeah. And we have about 15 more minutes before we have to stop. 10 minutes. Something like that. So do as much as you can, go as far as you can, as fast as you can, and don't fret about it. It's all good. Just try this out.
Guessing it's okay if I work in a square format?
Anything goes. Anything goes.
Andrea, is this different from the homework assignment? I'm a little confused.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, our homework assignment I haven't discussed yet. But
Okay.
basically, we are going to be continuing. But you know what, Tally? Let me tell everybody about that before. Yeah. Let me not get into that right now, just because I don't want to muddy the waters.
Sure.
You are so on top of it.
Because I've been adding paint and I wondered.
No, that's what you need to do. Yeah, you're adding paint, you're adding lines, you're just working into these things that you already just made today. Just a few more minutes, everybody, and we'll stop. This is not meaning that you're finished, complete, and the project is done. It just means that we're going to stop where we are and just kind of get a sense of where people are. Okay, everybody, let's stop here. Just kind of come back together. All right, so go ahead and unmute yourselves. What I'm going to do now is we're just going to chat a little bit about this part of the exercise, and then talk about homework and a little bit about next week's class. Great. So because we haven't had time to upload these, I'm hoping that people could just take one of the ones you're doing and hold it up to the screen to, just hold it up like this. I want you all to kind of see, and I want also just to get a sense of where we all are with this. Great, great. Yeah. Fabulous. All right. Super. Good, good. Okay. Yeah. All right. And when I'm saying good, this means yes, you're all on track. Yes, we are doing this exercise. That's what that means. And this is all about learning, what's new for you. And I'm always going to ask you, what did you learn? So just briefly, how did this feel to you to do this? What was this like for you? Are you, thoughts, feelings about it?
Can I just say something Tally said at the beginning, which was that I didn't like, and one thing I made the whole term as in a pretty piece of art. I found that so freeing. Thank you.
Yes, that's what it's all about. Yeah. Because we want to be doing something new. We want to stretch our bounds. We want to push ourselves and not be stuck, and not be stuck by our preconceptions either. Anybody else want to say a few things? Amy?
I found it more difficult. And I think, one of the things was I was trying to find a different way to respond than I had been responding. And I found that really, I put a constraint on myself for doing that, I guess. I don't know. I found it more difficult. I only made one so far. So.
Okay, no, it's just interesting to hear. And there is no bad or wrong answer to this. I'm just curious. Yeah, anybody else want to chat about how's this going?
Oh, I don't know if this is going to help or hinder, but I found a whole stash of like old markers and ink and pens and stuff. And I'm actually using this as part of because I love recycling and reusing and like testing. So I'm using this sort of as like a test thing to sort of bring color of fading markers and sort of like to test which ones are still good and colors I haven't used in forever. Because I never want to throw anything away unless I'm absolutely sure it's dead. So like this is
yeah, no, well, That's great. All right, I'm glad to hear that. Well, good. I mean, so.
I can follow up on
Yes,
that
Kelly, yeah.
quickly to do with recycling. I poured myself quite a lot of orange paint,
Yeah.
and then I was having a blast with it. And then I thought, oh my God, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to waste all this paint. So I started being more reckless. It felt great.
Awesome. Yeah. So, right. The point of many of these exercises that I will be giving you during class is to stretch you, is to push you, is to perhaps make you feel uncomfortable. And that's okay. You know, that's actually good because it means you're growing, you're, you know, trying things out. I really empathize with you guys. You know, I have to kind of remember that this is, you know, it's hard to be so exposed, you know, and I really appreciate that you are all willing to do this, or at least gonna try to. No, because it's really hard, and to, you know, give up that you know, feeling that you know what you're doing and then letting other people see your vulnerability, you know, is really hard to do. So I really appreciate that. And also I appreciate you're trying all this stuff, you know. So with that said, what I would like to tell you, you know, about for our homework is that I'd like you to continue to work on these. I think that that's really a great thing. And I wanted to, you know, also give you some suggestions of things to try. And that is, you know, you're going to tend to have a lot of white, and, you know, especially when we start a new piece of paper. You can also, you know, just kind of use your acrylics like watercolor and you know, put in more color behind your work if you want to. You know, you can certainly do that. So if you don't like so much white, you know, feel free to, you know, just take your big brush and, you know, kind of put a color on it in a lot of water and kind of put a lot of color on the behind of some of the works. That might be another thing to try. The other thing is, if you find that you've completed those 5 and you're hungry for more, then I would like you to take one of your pieces that you just had finished, cut that up again, and reassemble some of those pieces on a larger sheet of paper, and then continue to do this assignment. So you know, some people, you may find that this iteration thing is really working for you, and, you know, is taking you to places that you haven't gone before with your work. Here's another thing that occurs to me, and I haven't really found out what everybody's comfortability is with acrylics, you know, but I know that, you know, there are some things about acrylic paint that may be new for you and you haven't explored. But I will, well, show me with hands how many people, you know, would feel like there would be benefit from a little bit of a tutorial on acrylic paints and how to use them.
What level tutorial? I guess that might be.
Like a basic one, like how do you make opaque colors, for example? No?
Well,
That's kind of
always
basic.
something to learn, but
Yeah, there's always something to learn.
I didn't know you could make opaque colors with acrylic. I assumed it was always going to be shiny.
Well, no, opaque means you can't see through them, Tally. Not glossy, but yeah,
Gotcha.
see through them. All right, so for next class, I'll give you a little tutorial. In fact, you know what I'll do? I'm not going to even I'll send you a tutorial of it via email and a little video, okay? Because that's actually, it makes more sense to do it outside of class, and just to kind of get you to understand a few things that might be really helpful to you as we progress. I will definitely do that. Great. So yeah, you know, we're a little bit early on finishing, but I'm happy to answer questions or you know, anything else you have concerns about the class. We have a structure now. So next week we'll be exploring color. And so that will be, you know, a good time to know a little bit more about acrylics if you don't. So I'll definitely send that to you. And, you know, every week I'll be presenting new artists, you know, a few more videos that of the very quickly speaking people. And, you know, kind of take us into some other territory. So you can be ready to expect that. How I would also suggest that during the course of this class that you get out to see some contemporary art. And let's see, Susan is in New York. Jean is in upstate New York. Jean, there is a show of Elizabeth Murray's work at in Buffalo now. Do you know her work?
No.
She's one of my favorite artists, and she's passed away, I think, in the early 2000s. And she's absolutely somebody that I look to all the time. Really one of the very interesting, unusual women artists working in the sort of 80s, 90s, 2000s. So if you can see that, go and tell us how about it.
Okay.
Let's see, Susan, you're in New York. Yeah, go see something.
Yeah, we have Jasper Johns. What's your feeling about Jasper Johns at the Whitney?
Go see it, please, and report on it for us, see what you think.
Also, I'm going to be in Boston next weekend at
Come
Clark
visit.
University. Anything I should see there?
Next weekend.
No, the weekend
that-
after, the 23rd or 24th.
Okay.
No, on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 17th, actually.
Oh, for the whole day?
We're going to see Clark University.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you're not going to be in Boston.
No, I guess I'm not going to be in
You're
Boston.
going to be in Worcester. Worcester.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Boo.
Well, the Worcester Art Museum is wonderful. Go see it.
My
Check it
son
out.
would rather.
Yeah, really a
Really?
good one. Yeah, I don't know what it has it on there right now. Tammy, you said something. Let's see, what did you chat? What did you
Yeah,
say?
so there's an art walk in Lexington.
Ah,
And so I usually paint landscapes on mousetraps and display them as a sculpture. And I usually put in a lot of found objects, but this is sort of just a simple grid design.
uh-huh.
So if anybody happens to be wandering in the middle of Lexington, look for my work at the
I will
Verizon.
totally do that. Yes, I'm definitely
Well,
going to do that.
I'm going to be there today, this afternoon at
good.
Gallery
Good.
Twist, so I'll definitely stop by and see that.
Definitely
Oh,
stop by.
excellent. Yeah, I
telling us.
heard about Gallery Twist. I heard that they're fabulous. So I'm excited.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I live nearby there too. Is it all day Saturday and Sunday?
Gallery Twist?
Oh, no, not Gallery Twist, but the
Verizon.
Lexington Walk.
Oh, I think the art walk is going to be up maybe for the next month or so.
Oh, you have plenty
terrific.
of time.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's stuff in all of or most of the restaurants and
Oh,
stores.
fun.
all
Fun.
along there.
Okay, well, we'll look for it.
And it is true, Gallery Twist. I'm gonna go there on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
That's a-
Great. And earlier Kathleen sent me a little notice about an exhibit that in Watertown that's looking for artists to submit work. And yeah, let's see, Kathleen, I think you're welcome to send that to everybody. Everybody has the email list, right? Just, reply back to one of the ones that I sent.
I don't have everyone's email, but it's the deadline is today, which I'm sure she would set tomorrow. It's a very open,
Yes.
accepting, very, very broad range of art and broad range of prices.
Great. thanks.
So it's a really cool space.
Good. I'll send that out to everybody then today for everyone. Well, good, everybody. So, well, thank you. And exciting class. Great to work with you again. And I will see you next time and look for a thorough explanation of the homework.
Are we putting it up?
Email, plus a little video about basics of acrylic painting. And I will see you all.
Are we putting this on the tablet?
Jean, oh, and put your things on Padlet. Yes, Padlet. And I will send you that video about how to use Padlet.
Okay.
Do you want all 5? Or Adria,
But
do you want all 5 pieces on there?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. As many as you feel like you want to put. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.